Hey, welcome back to Ticking Gray Bomb, Refined Taste for Idiots. So today we have a treat for you, particularly after we've piled on lots of watch-related content. We're going to go back probably to the main reason why we wanted to do this podcast, which is to talk about stuff that's really important to us and that's played a role in our lives. And we think that you will be entertained by this. We're going to look at our favorite, I'd say our top 5, but I think we're going to treat you with a lot more than just 5 favorite movie screams. And we could say best screams. I think you could Google all sorts of top rated screams, and do a search that way. These for us, we've been very methodical. Maybe that's giving us too much credit, but methodical in the screams we've picked, because these are movies and moments that are iconic for us, that have really been transported into our lexicon, the way we communicate, the way we interact with each other, probably since we met each other in 1994 or 1995. So this has a good track record of almost 30 years of kicking the tires and just guys doing silly stuff and saying silly things. And I can tell you that our spouses and families don't find the same enjoyment in us quoting scenes from these movies. But we really hope that you enjoy not just these clips, but the way we're going to present them to you today. So, hey guys, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. If you liked this content as much as we did, give us a thumbs up, please. It really does help.
We would be remiss if we didn't talk about the Wilhelm Scream. This is an iconic sound that originated in the 1951 movie Distant Drums, starring Gary Cooper. The party is crossing a river, and one of the party members got eaten by an alligator and lets out this scream for the first time. That scream was borrowed and used in the 1953 movie The Charge at Feather Ridge. And Private Wilhelm was shot with an arrow through his leg, and the scream was taken and named for that character in that movie, even though it had been originally used created 2 years earlier. This scream has been used in over 400 movies since, and it actually was revitalized by USC film students. And one of those students, Ben Burt, started working with George Lucas, and it resurfaced in the Star Wars movie in kind of that shaft. Luke shoots one of the Star Troopers, and you'll see him kind of fall into the shaft. And it was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And then it's been in more recent movies like Toy Story, the Lord of the Rings movies, and it's sort of almost cliche to see this or to hear this scream in all of these movies. We're going to give you the 2 examples from Distant Drums and The Charge at Feather Ridge.
Wilhelm! Yeah, I'll just fill my pipe.
That's it's like a 2-part.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to jump into our content for today, which is our top 5 movie screams. We're going to go in order from 5 to 1. And our number 5 pick is from Reservoir Dogs by Quentin Tarantino. So this film was made in 1992. I would say we probably didn't discover it until 1994, 1995, but it really was a critical piece of our, of our lifestyle. I guess you could say that. I have T-shirts from Reservoir Dogs. I remember buying the script to Reservoir Dogs down
posters.
Place. Yeah, you name it.
Yeah, we had that poster where we clipped people's heads and put them on the different characters. Yeah.
Correct. Right. This was a really, it sounds awkward to say this was a lifestyle play for us, but we really internalized almost everything about this movie, right? Quoting it incessantly, reenacting it, listening to the soundtrack, right? I mean, which is obviously going to play a big role in this particular Scream, which is when Mr. Blonde tortures the police officer that they captured in the unraveling of their heist. Okay, so actually speaking about the soundtrack, right? It basically, this scene is slow to develop, but really starts to intensify when Mr. Blonde puts on K. Billy's Sound of the 70s, and the Steelers' Wheel Stuck in the Middle song comes on. Okay. And this is a really intense scene. Okay. Because I would say the first part of the Scream, the cop his mouth is covered with duct tape. Okay. And he actually has his ear severed with a straight razor. Okay. So you can imagine the type of pain that he's in, but it's muffled because of this duct tape. Okay. And then later, there's some screaming when he's doused with gasoline, right? The duct tape comes off, and it's a much more visceral scream, right? I mean, he's in pain. Obviously, he's got his ear cut off, but then he's all bloodied, and all those open wounds are getting aggravated by the gasoline. So it's a really kind of intense scene. Last probably total, I timed it out for, definitely lasts for probably close to 3 minutes. Okay. Until basically the music stops and the officer is begging Mr. Blonde to stop, right? So he goes from just this guttural kind of scream, some grunting, screaming again, and then saying, stop, 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 right? And that's kind of how that segment ends. There's an exchange, and then obviously Mr. Blonde gets shot by Mr. Orange, Tim Roth's character. So I'll leave it there. Mace, I'm curious to hear your interactions, or at least your impressions of this scene, which is really an iconic Scream for us.
Yeah, in rewatching it in the last couple of days, because it's been a while since I put that on, having kids and all, you don't get all that much opportunity. But I would say it really brings out the fact that Mr. Blonde is just a stone cold psycho. He's dancing around this music, and he starts off, the first jab with the straight razor is, it's almost like he's shadow boxing. And it's just, I forgot just how much of a reaction I had to it after not seeing it for, I don't know, 15 years. So
yeah, I mean, that's a good point, right? Because but it's not just the time, right? I mean, we're not only are we older, but it's a different moment today, right? Where you think about these things. I agree totally, right? It's like, it's like how, I mean, I'm not going to say we celebrated Mr. Blonde, but it's like, this guy is a total psychopath. I mean, he tells the cop, he's like, I don't care what you tell me. I'm sure you have nothing to tell me. I'm just going to torture you anyway because I like the thought of torturing a cop.
Right.
That's a psycho, total psycho.
Yep.
Right. But yeah, so that's our Scream number 5.
Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you. And I'm wondering what it is I should do. It's so hard to keep this smile from my face. Hold still. Hold still, Clowns to the left, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. When you start.
All right, at number 4, we have Raiders of the Lost Ark. This movie was a staple of my childhood. I think it was the second movie I ever saw in the movie theater. And it had everything, right? It opens up, there's a chase through the jungle, there's tunnels, treasure seeking, there's deserts, there's German strongmen, there's biblical artifacts. And I'll always remember how this movie ends, right? It's iconic. And what else can you say other than God punished the Nazis by melting their fascist faces? That's it.
That's it.
That's
I
it for
mean,
me.
the thing I love about that scene, Mace, is, and you're right, it does have everything, right? And it's funny. It's like that little scene really has some intense kind of religious sentiment, right, in it, and certainly imagery and everything. But that transition, I think that's what kind of jacks up that the high pitched screaming, is because you go from basically angels to devils, right? And at that moment that the tables get turned on those fascist SOBs, right? Is again, you and as viewers, right? Again, we've seen it 10, 20 times, so you know what's going to happen. But if you could imagine the first time that you saw this, you also don't know what's going to happen in that moment. It feels a little eerie, obviously, and you see the angels kind of moving around, but then it's just terror, right? And it's like, and you get this high pitched, these high pitched screams. It's really, it's really chilling.
Don't look right! Keep your eyes shut!
Okay, so at number 3, we have Predator. Okay, 1987. So again, still in our wheelhouse, right? Our coming of age wheelhouse. I did not see this movie in the theaters. I saw it on VHS afterwards. And yes, we are dating ourselves by referring to VHS cassette. So this is where Arnold basically throws down the gauntlet. He figures out some things about Predator, okay? And so he has his kind of game plan set up. And he's got this very kind of guttural battle cry, lasts for about 9 seconds, where he's basically throwing down the gauntlet, challenging the Predator to come find him and fight him. So really, I mean, one of Arnold's best screams. And so I'd like to give a shout out here to Film Drunk, because he really does a great job at synthesizing all of Arnold's screams throughout his career. Okay. And there's a lot of dog feces in here. Okay. But there's a lot of gold in here. And it really allows you to see that this Predator scream is probably Arnold's best true scream across his career.
Yeah, totally agree. And this is, you mentioned the battle cry, right? And he's kind of an invitation to this section of the forest that he is booby trapped. And one of my favorite lines is, "Kill me, I'm here. Kill me now." And he's kind of laying underneath some logs that's been booby trapped, and Predator is smart enough not to take the bait there. But
yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Mace, because it does herald in that this kind of cat and mouse almost battle between Arnold and Predator as they work through his kind of course that he has booby trapped to try to give him an extra advantage over Predator, because he can't have his conventional weapons to fight. so dominant. Yeah, I have number 2 here, and this is probably my personal favorite movie Scream of all time. And we used to mimic the Scream, and now we just use the character's name. And I don't know if there are any other Screams in The Godfather, so this may be obvious to any viewers, but this is the Woltz Scream. After he finds Khartoum's head in his bed. Okay, so Godfather from 1972. Basically, the thing I love about this scene. So this is 14 seconds, okay, of Scream, and it starts. The scene is amazing, right? Because obviously Woltz blows up on Hagen for the second time. Says, "Get the hell out of here," and the movie flips to Woltz in bed, right? And again, for viewers of this movie who've seen it 10 times, 20 times, you know what's coming, right? But I remember actually, so watching it in preparation for this video, I remember the first time I saw it, right? And what you don't know anything. You see him in bed, and he starts to move, and you just see blood on his silk sheets. Okay, and you have this terror and confusion. Both Woltz and I think the viewer, okay, feel this sense of terror and confusion, because the first thought is, what happened to Woltz? Right? Khartoum, 600K on 4 hoops, doesn't register with you immediately, right? So you think, what has happened to Woltz? And then as he's unfurling his silk sheets, you find out why it's there, and that's when Woltz's screams really ratchet up, right? Find a different decibel level. Really full-throated, very chilling, and it's the depth of it is let's say amplified by the fact that the camera totally pans out of his bedroom. I don't even say it pans out. It transitions to just his house. You see the exterior of his house and just hear him screaming, with the sense that you could only imagine how intense it would be if you were there in his bedroom, because that's the shock, that's the horror, that's the anger that he's feeling at that moment.
Yeah. And this is the guy who has it all, right? He tells Tom Hagen he's had women all over the world, and you go to his, you see his property, right? So in his immense estate, he's got this prize, racehorse. You go into his room, and even his sheets are gold. He's got an Oscar on the nightstand, which I hadn't noticed until rewatching the last couple of days, right? Yeah. He's got it all. And the Godfather, through his people, have made the message clear to him. We can get to you like that. Your horse means nothing. You mean nothing. You will bend to our will. And, I think all of these things about the camera going towards his bedroom from the outside to the inside, and then kind of retreating, is a reminder of all that can be lost for Woltz.
Well, if I may say so, Mace, it just proves that a man in his position can be made to look ridiculous.
the number one Scream that we picked was from the movie Jaws. When we did some research, we were kind of blown away that both the Woltz Scream and this Scream were not part of anyone's kind of top 10, top 20, any sort of compilations. It really blew us away. And 1 and 2 for us were kind of a flip of the coin. We kind of knew right off the bat that these two were going to be our headliners, Godfather and Jaws. So Quint is one of the 3 main characters. He's the old salty sea dog, the man who hates sharks, the man who survived the sinking of the Indianapolis, the man who sings about fair Spanish ladies, the man who judges Chief Brody's knot tying ability, the man who hates Mr. Hooper's city hands. And this is how he meets his fate.